Chargers end up getting the win, thrilling win on Sunday Night Football, 34-27. What a ball game this was. It feels like every single game the Bengals play in is just the most exhilarating game we've ever seen. And unfortunately for Bengals fans, also those exhilarating games have been losses for them, and I think that they're getting a little unlucky there. I'll get back to that in a second, but let's take a look at the top 5 graded players from the Los Angeles Chargers in their big win on Sunday night. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey, rookie, 85.7 overall grade at number 1 on this list. Another rookie right behind him at number 2, Joe Alt, their offensive tackle with an 84.1. Safety Alohi Gilman with a 83.3. Offensive guard Trey Pipkins, an 81.3. Offensive tackle Rashawn Slater, a 79.1. Quarterback Justin Herbert in this one, a 74.9. On Cincinnati's side of things, T. Higgins had a hell of a day, 90.8 overall grade. Running back Chase Brown with a 79.4. Cornerback DJ Turner with a 76.2. Cornerback Josh Newton, shout out another rookie, 71.3, stepping up big time in this game. They really needed him to keep this one close. And then edge rusher Joseph Osai with a 70.1. Joe Burrow in this game, 75.9 overall grade. Stat that told the story, Dalton. What do you got?
So at the end of it all, and we got a roller coaster game where the Chargers got out ahead at halftime, and then the Bengals came all the way back, and then situational football, and Justin Herbert was just a little bit better in the end, and they had the rushing touchdown. All right, like you mentioned, what we've seen from the Bengals all season. And I think, look, the big difference coming into this game for me between these two teams is just the Chargers have more of a football team than the Bengals do, if that makes sense. Think about it like this. Chargers had 11 players in this game grade at least a 70 on offense. Bengals had 3. All right. Chargers, say take the running game even. 21 design carries spread across 5 different players. Okay. All 22 of the Bengals design carries went to Chase Brown. All right. So we're top heavy there too. 9 players on the Chargers with multiple pressures. Bengals had 2. The Bengals just don't have the depth to beat better football teams like this. They don't, and I know situational football, and there's a lot of micro things we could talk about the Bengals, and they're 4-7, and they could be at least 7-4, if not better. But at the end of the day, we're doing this every week where it's maybe there's a couple other guys like you mentioned Josh Newton played well. He had to come in the game, and DJ Turner was pretty good, locking up Quentin Johnston for most of the game. But they don't have enough. And the Chargers being more well-rounded on both sides of the ball, they just have more ways to beat you. Where again and again and again, how do the Bengals beat you? Well, they have Joe Burrow. Okay, what else?
Well, the receivers, but yeah,
that's the idea. It's just that those you generally Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Chase Brown was pretty good in this game too, and he's had his moments this year. But you're not afraid of Chase Brown, and you're really not afraid of anything other than those 3 guys. And again, that's what it came down to. When you look at them falling behind 27-6, Chargers are just better than them. Yeah. They're more well-rounded. And, we could have arguments about this level of talent and that and the other thing, but the reality is on the Bengals, there's only 3 guys that scare you. And if you just don't let those guys go absolutely crazy, then you should be fine. It's just a team with just no depth on it at all.
I think the word luck is very taboo in sports because when you bring up luck, people think that means that you're insulting their talent or that they don't work hard or that they didn't do what they needed to do to deserve a fortune or a win or whatever it is. But the truth of the matter is, this league is so good, you need to get lucky. The ball needs to bounce your way. Things have to go your way a little bit. And when I look at the Bengals right now, 1-6 this year in 1-score games, they are unlucky. And of course, people are going to point out, there's deficiencies. Oh, they're not unlucky. They're this. They're not diverse enough. All these kinds of things. And those are also true. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. You need to be a little bit lucky in this league to get over 500 and get into the playoffs and make playoff runs, even if it is simple as luck being not getting hurt, right? Having your full team out there. Communicating things right. Sometimes it just feels as though when it rains, it pours. And that is the way that it feels right now with the Cincinnati Bengals. It just feels like it has been something at each point in time throughout the season. Okay, all right, the first 3 games. Well, they're coming out of the game. They're coming out of the gate slow because they didn't play a lot of guys in the preseason and they weren't ready for the first couple of games. All right, well, now T. Higgins gets hurt, and you see what it's like when it's just Jamar Chase and it's not T. Higgins. Well, now the offensive line's kind of coming together, and they got Amarius Mims in the lineup and all this kind. And you just go, well, it was Trey Hendrickson, and then the rest of the defensive line wasn't really showing up, and then the defensive line did show up, and then the coverage wasn't. It has never been in lockstep with the Bengals, and it has just been bad timing, bad luck, and of course there are things that they could have been better at. Again, I'm not trying to absolve them of total blame, but perfection being the bar is unfair for a football team. Even the best teams in the NFL, they're not perfect. They play well to a high level, and you put yourself in position to where when the ball bounces your way, you are there to capitalize on it. It does not feel like the Bengals are getting the ball to bounce their way very often this season. It feels like they're having to work to get close, and then it's those areas where team building and coaching and things like that are bringing them down. The ball is not bouncing their way enough to try to make up for it. And so they are getting unlucky, and I think that's really putting a magnifying glass on a lot of their deficiencies. I think the lack of depth is a big one for that. But yeah, when I look at this Bengals team, it's just, how many close games are they going to be in? They absolutely had a chance to win this game, just like they had a chance to beat the Baltimore Ravens twice. And just throughout this season, it feels like there's always been they were right there. And it kind of is a shame. I know Joe Burrow is very frustrated. I saw a couple of clips of him after the game, and I read some quotes from him after the game, and I think somebody asked him straight up, hey, is this the most frustrating season you've ever had? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, why? And he's like, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're in a lot of one-score games, and we can't win them. We're too many games below 500 now, and basically now they're at the point where if they don't run the table over these last 6 games they have, they're not going to make the playoffs. The AFC playoff picture is almost locked up unless they just go undefeated the rest of the way, and that's sort of unrealistic to think, even as high potent as their offense is. So to me, it's just a matter of course, there's a lot of team building things and depth and deficiencies that we have talked about here. Some of the coaching blunders that they've had throughout the year, the offensive line not playing well, the run game being very hot and cold. All of that, I think, goes into it. But I think a factor that we also have to talk about is this team's just unlucky this year. It's just not the Bengals' year for as much as they are doing things well. What about the most impressive or most disappointing? Where do you want to start?
And right before that, something I just kind of sort of came up with in my head. You know what luck in sports is, Trevor? Mm-hmm. It's 50-50 situations going for or against you 70% of the time.
Sure.
And that's where we're at. Because of that 1-6 record. If we're roughly 50-50, they're the 6 or 7 seed in the playoffs.
Yes.
That's it. If they're 4-3 in the
even with that lack of depth, even with the offensive line not playing well, even with all those things, if they're just a coin flip.
A handful of plays, 3 to 5 plays from being like the 5 seed in the AFC playoff picture. But that's just the way it goes. And sometimes, you know what? Yeah, do they have to change the process of it? Yeah, but these things happen. Look, these things happen on the good side of 3 or 4 teams a year and on the bad side of 3 or 4 teams a year, and they're just unfortunately a part of that. But they do need to get better. But I'll tell you what, a team that got better in the offseason was the Chargers. This rookie class, it's performing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
a good football team.
Joe Alt, let's start with Joe. I'm going just with the whole group of rookies that played in this game. Joe Alt, an 84.1 overall grade in this game, allowed 1 pressure all night in a high-scoring game. He's already like a top 15 tackle in the league right now. It's amazing what he's doing. Ladd McConkey just took this game over in the fourth quarter. 6 catches, 123 yards, 84.2 receiving grade. Cam Hart, 81 coverage grade on the outside. He was a day 3 pick at corner. Tareeb Still, 2 catches, 18 yards out there at corner, playing a lot of. They got rookie corners playing a lot of snaps. And we've talked about this defense. Are they the most talented defense you've ever seen? No, but they're playing so much more fundamentally sound under Jesse Minter. I've told you, it looks like last year's Michigan defense. They just don't screw anything up for the most part. And look, it's hard to defend the Bengals, and they gave up a few touchdowns late, but they also had this team down to 6 points until late in the third quarter. Their defense is incredible. The rookie class has just been amazing. And we had a feeling because remember the debate was 5th overall, Joe Alt or Malik Neighbors. There was people arguing both ways, and they took Joe Alt because, honestly, I thought he was the safest pick in the draft. I was like, this guy's going to be great. He's just great. That's how it is. But they had a plan in the second round to go get McConkey. They used most of the rest of the draft on defensive pieces. They have put together such a good rookie class on this Charger team that it is supercharged their chances of contention, right? And I don't know that they're a Super Bowl contender. I don't know that they're explosive enough for that, but they're going to the playoffs. With Justin Herbert playing the way he's playing, this rookie class developing, and the way their defense is playing, they're going to the playoffs. I have pretty much no doubt about it now.
It feels like they're on that road that kind of the Lions were on. What was it, like 2 years ago, where like Dan Campbell and the rest of that front office, they were building things from the ground up, and they've done so by drafting really well, getting the right players onto the team, and it feels like the Chargers are already sort of laying the building blocks for that. My most impressive in this game, the title that I have for this is Justin Herbert's becoming Josh Allen. And it's a crazy thing to say because we just got done ringing the praises of Josh Allen and how much of an alien he is, an MVP player. But again, it's the same thing. Look at it. Accounted for 363 of the team's 435 total yards. His 65 rushing yards we saw last night. Huge rushes for this team. When you don't account for him, his foot is fully healthy now. This dude can run. This dude can pick up first downs. He can pick up chunk plays. He had the 3 big-time throws and the 2 turnover-worthy plays. I think he's up to, like 16 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays over the last 5 weeks. I mean, he's just playing such an incredible brand of football. His talent level is up there with the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think that there are still people out there, and I know there are still people out there because when we did our top quarterback rankings, right, in the summer, Justin Herbert was 5. He was 5, and people go like, "What has Justin Herbert done? Like, how is he this high on this list? Justin Herbert hasn't done anything." Guys, Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback. Justin Herbert is in like that. If you want to say that Mahomes is in a tier of his own, okay, whatever. So Mahomes will be tier 1. Justin Herbert's in tier 2. He's in there with Lamar. He's in there with Josh Allen. He's in there with Joe Burrow. He is capable of doing these things. And I think now that they have an offensive line and a coaching staff that is truly allowing him to play with all of his talents, we saw this last night. And we have seen it over the last 5 weeks in particular since he has really become fully healthy coming off of that foot injury. This dude is unbelievable. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's proven it now. And I can't wait for the Chargers to get into the playoffs because I think that he's going to be able to put on a show because he is that talented. So honestly, my most impressive is just the fact that Justin Herbert feels like he is becoming a version of Josh Allen, which is awesome to watch.
And you know what's crazy is everybody wants to judge him. It's only his, 5th year in the league. Justin Herbert's 26 years old. What are we fully judging this guy's legacy for at 26 years old? It's like I mean, I know people like to do it with quarterbacks and they want to either keep him or dump him as quick as they can, but he's 26 and he's already done. I mean, he's off to one of the best starts of a career in NFL history, and I think people just kind of forget that because of, well, they're the Chargers and everything that happened under the previous regime and playoff losses and just kind of bad mojo over there. But no, you're absolutely right. He's been playing like a top 5 quarterback all season. Most disappointing real quick. I just have the Bengals defense. I just want to throw one more number at you. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. There is kind of a hard split, though, when they play the poorer teams of the league versus the good ones. Mm-hmm. They've played 5 last-place teams this year, okay? Patriots, Browns, Giants, Raiders, and Panthers, I think it's something like that. They have a 78 defensive grade in those games, which would be a top 5 defense. It's like the 4th best in football if that was stretched out. And against the other 6 teams on their schedule, they would a 49.9, which would be the lowest graded defense in football. They just, against relatively good offenses, it's just not working. So it's absolutely, yes, the one-score games, the bad luck, it does play a part. Their record should be better based on the situations they've been in and how it's gone with the coin flip stuff. But they have to overhaul this defense in the offseason.
My most disappointing, really quick, is just the Bengals' offensive line. 3rd highest pressure percentage allowed this week. 21 pressures allowed, which was the most in the NFL in Week 11. Obviously, we have 1 game remaining, but so far it's the most in the NFL. Only offensive line with a pressure percent, only offensive linemen, with a pressure percentage below 5% was Alex Kappa. Everybody else had an above 5% pressure percentage in this game. So that's just not good enough either. I mean, you got to be a lot better on the offensive side of the trenches. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.